Hello, I'm Dr. Indrajit Bose, and I shall be your course coordinator for this session. Welcome to the first year MCA course in Guru Nanak Institute of Technology. This paper is entitled Business English and Communication with the paper code of AG101. Now, I think all of you are aware that the business English context is the context of the workplace or the place of business. So in the corporate world or in the workplace world, there are various functional uses of English, both spoken and written, which are required almost on a day-to-day basis. So once you join the industry, you shall be required to function in a competent way, both in written and spoken forms of English, in your daily functioning in the office. So it is evident that this paper concerns itself with various practical usages of English, both spoken and written. Now, I think you are aware that business English actually covers a whole lot of things. There is business English writing, which involves different kinds of official correspondence and written communication, which is taking place all the time between clients, customers, vendors, officials of the government, and other people with whom companies have to correspond or interact either over phone or by writing letters or emails or faxes. So that aspect of business communication is one important aspect of it. The functional exchanges or interactional exchanges that take place between clients, customers, and company officials. So you shall be a part of that, and you have to study different forms of written communication. Some other types of business writing include products literature, or again, this is a vast array of promotional technical writing, which includes brochures, pamphlets, which are specifically designed in order to promote certain products. So you may or may not be called upon specifically to design technical documents, but you may be required to involve yourself in overseeing whether the technical part of it is correct or not. Maybe you will have somebody else to write the thing for you, but nevertheless, you may be involved very much in the production of this kind of technical writing or products literature. Whenever you go to the stores to buy a new appliance, like for example, a washing machine, a mixer grinder, or a vacuum cleaner, for example, you get or you are given a copy of the product user manual, right? So what does this user manual contain? Or how do you go about designing a user manual at all? These are questions to which we shall be addressing ourselves today, because among the different types of product literature, we are going to focus today on one of the most useful and practical types of product literature, which acts as a kind of a reader's guide or users or buyer's guide to their clients, is the product manual. And we are going to focus on this today in our lecture. So I shall first be beginning by looking at what a manual is. Then we shall be looking at how guidelines can be prepared to fit into a manual with suitable illustrations. The formatting of the manual can also occupy our attention, and then we shall be moving on to see how a software user manual can be prepared. So these are a couple of points which I shall be looking at in the course of the lecture today. So going back to what I was saying, whenever you buy an appliance, you are given a copy of the product user manual. Now, what does this product user manual actually contain? To put it very simply, the manual contains nothing else but a set of instructions, or you can say that it is a kind of guided instruction manual for the consumer, by which the consumer can set the thing going, or the consumer can understand the operations of the appliance which he or she has purchased. Also, in case of any problems which may arise in using the appliance, how the problems can be sorted out, certain tips for that, certain tips for solving these problems are also given in these manuals. And just by reading them up, the customer can find out certain simple ways of finding himself or herself out of these perplexing difficulties. Also, the contact information of the company, like the telehelpline numbers, the email, the fax numbers, uh, the consumer grievance cell with the email of that cell being given, all these details by which the consumer can contact the company are also given at the end of this manual. So basically, a manual is a set of guidelines which is in the form of a small booklet or pamphlet. So this is the manual which we have to produce when we are designing a software user manual. A software, like any other appliance or product, is also, you might say, an instrument or device, that it's an application by which the consumer or the customer can perform certain functions. So these are the set of instructions which are given in the manual. Now we shall be taking a look at all of these. Now, first of all, let us spell out a little more clearly what the manual is and what it contains. As I have said, the manual is a guidebook. It has a set of guidelines, or it's a set of, you might say, it's a do-it-yourself book of instructions. I think all of you are familiar with do-it-yourself books. So learn bridge by yourself, okay? Chess learning on your own. These are all do-it-yourself books, or the handy manual to carpentry work, okay? Or do-it-yourself carpentry. So these are there. Nowadays, of course, it is the age of the DIY videos. So those are the do-it-yourself videos on YouTube, which are readily available for anything and everything under the sun. And instead of looking at the do-it-yourself manual, we are more prone to just run a search on the Google and to open the DIY video and quickly view that to see how one can do it fast, because it is interactive over there, which the book is not, obviously. So that is more helpful, kind of. But anyway, a manual is supposed to be helpful. It's supposed to be useful. It's supposed to give instructions to the person who operates, that is the consumer, about how to run the machine or how to operate any kind of device or instrument or application which the consumer has purchased. So it's a handbook, or it's a do-it-yourself book. It enables the consumer to very simply do it for himself or herself. And it accompanies the device or instrument. It is designed for that with which it was accompanied in the first place. So if it's a table fan that you have bought or purchased, then you will find a manual for that in the box in which the table fan comes. So these manuals are given out with different kinds of devices or instruments. Now, they are supposed to be very handy and serviceable. So the manual, when you get it, may not be very large size. It may be very small, or it may be even smaller than that, or it might even fit into the palm of your hand. So it's a kind of a mini book or booklet often. Now, the usefulness of the manual lies in the fact that it contains operating instructions. When I buy something new, like for example, a hand blender, if I bought one, so I don't know how to operate it. So if I am a layperson, then I might go and ask somebody, oh, excuse me, can you tell me how to operate this hand blender? But that sounds very foolish, and you may not get somebody to help you like that. So the easier way out would be to get a set of instructions with which the consumer can actually start operating the machine or the device on his or her own. So the operating instructions are given in the manual. That's what the manual is for. And the instructions are given in such a simple and precise language that any person can follow, even without any lot of specialized learning or without having technical learning. Any person can follow the set of instructions. It also contains a brief description of all the parts, and it also contains precautions for use. It is written in a style which is concise and precise and simple, and it serves as a handy reference guide, as I have said. So it's more like a booklet, a pamphlet, or an e-book. So there are many, many different journals, and there are lots of different kinds of manuals which are available, but they are all common in one respect, that is, they serve as a handy reference guide to the product. So they come in various forms in different sizes and shapes. So they may take the form of a small booklet, or it might be the size of a small pamphlet. So it might be very thin, say around 10 pages, or it might be a little thicker than that, or it might be almost like a small book or booklet, or it may be an e-book, or it may be there on a CD-ROM. So there are different ways in which the manual comes, but they are actually serving the same purpose, that is helping the consumer to operate the product with ease. Okay, so I think we have basically understood what the manual is and how it is helpful for us to a certain extent. Now, let us look in more detail at the format of the manual. Now, the format of the manual, you can understand it's almost like a separate booklet by itself. So it's not that short, really, but there are a number of sections which are covered in it. Okay, so the format of the manual is like that of the long report. So it has a cover page, a title page, then there is something called a disclaimer. Okay. I shall be explaining shortly what this disclaimer is about. Then there is a software description, a contents page, and list of tables and figures. Then there are, in details, the software installation instructions. And finally, there is some troubleshooting help which is given together with some contact information. So we have, just making a recap, the cover page, the title page, disclaimer, product description, then the contents page, the list of tables and figures, software installation instructions, if it is a software that you are writing about. So if it is not a software, it can be device operating instructions. Then some contact information, which is given at the end of the manual, which might include a lot of contact details, including email or fax or phone numbers or email and various other things. The telehelpline with giving the toll-free number. So a lot of these things might be included in the contact information at the very end of the manual. So this is the format of the user manual. Okay, now here you find that I have given a diagrammatic representation of the cover and title page of the user manual. Now, this is a manual concerning the antivirus called Panofsky. So it is a manual of the Panofsky antivirus or Panofsky antivirus software. Okay, let us see. Now, to the left, I have given a diagrammatic representation of the cover page of this manual. Now, on this cover page, on the top right-hand corner, maybe an inch below the top margin and about half an inch from the right margin, we have embossed the logo of the company or the design of the company. Now below that, there are 3 or 4 lines space, and then we have in bold the title of the manual is given in bold italics. So naturally the title is going to be highlighted. What is the title of this manual? Getting Started with Panofsky, a manual. Okay, so the title makes it very clear that it is a manual concerning a software called Panofsky, and it is of course a guided manual to the operations of that software. Then there are a couple of lines space at the bottom, 1 inch space from the bottom. We have the writers of this manual and the company to which it belongs. That is given. That sort of information is given. So who are the producers of Panofsky? So they are Wanamaker Technologies, okay, USA. So the copyright is by Wanamaker Corporation USA in Virginia. The date is 2017. So what are the pieces of information that we have on the cover page? The company logo, then the title, which is centered in bold. Then below that, 1 inch from the bottom, we have the author's names and the organization's name and address. Okay, now to the right hand side, we have the title page of this manual. Now, in this title page, look at the layout or arrangement. We have the company logo again in the same place, top right hand corner. Then we again have the title, Getting Started with Panofsky Manual. But below that, 1 or 2 inches space below that, we have certain highlighted features of the manual, which are in bulleted points. Like it's an illustrated guide, it says, for self-study, it is easy to install, it has simple operation, and it is the safest antivirus. Okay. So kind of, we can say it's an illustrated guide which is given, and certain highlights or snapshots of the manual are given. So this is just to make the manual more attractive to the reader. So once again, what do we have in the title page? The company logo, top right hand side, then the title, then a kind of snapshots of brief comments about the usefulness and practicality of the antivirus or the product which is used over here, which is described in this manual. And finally, at the bottom, we have the email address of the corporation, that is www.wanamakercorp.org. So this much we can say about the cover page and the title page. Now, disclaimer. Now, what is this disclaimer? Let me just read out to you a sample disclaimer from an antivirus software manual, which is a kind of a guideline for us to write this sort of thing only when you write the portion of the disclaimer. Okay, let me just read. This software package is provided as such without warranty of any kind, expressed or implied, including but not limited to the implied warranties of merchantability and fitness of the package. In no event, Westminster and Wanamaker Technologies or its suppliers will be liable to you or anyone else for any damages arising directly or indirectly or consequential, including loss of data, lost profits, or any other damages of data, lost a property arising out of the use or inability to use the software package ever. Wanamaker Technologies reserves the right to cooperate without any legal process, and you may provide documents, information related to your use of the software. The disclaimers and limitations set forth above will apply regardless of whether you accept the software. Okay, so basically it is written in full-scale legal and business jargon. Okay. Now, a disclaimer is something very specific. Okay. Okay. You might say that by giving this disclaimer, the company is saying that in the event of any damage arising from mishandling of the data or inability to use the software due to some reasons, the company will not be liable, or it is disclaiming responsibility, in other words. Okay, so there are certain limitations of involvement from the company side. So how much the company will be held responsible for lapses on their part. Now this is strictly defined and limited at the very beginning of the user manual by the organization. Okay. So warranty of any kind, which naturally goes without saying that it is applicable for products. So if you buy a refrigerator, it has got a couple of years warranty. If you buy an electric oven or an electric kettle, it has got a 1 year or 2 year warranty. So those things may be very well applicable for the appliance or the product, but they are not applicable for the software, particularly the antivirus software. And the company shall not be liable for damages or lost profits or any other damages of data. Okay. So these are a kind of disclaimers which are given at the beginning of the software package. So this pertains to other softwares also. So if you are preparing a software user manual, then you have to give a disclaimer. It is not so applicable, however, if you are talking about products in an ordinary product user manual. Okay. Now, after the title page and the cover page and the disclaimer, we have the contents page which is given. So over here, let us see the arrangement of the parts in the content page. So this is just like the content page of a report. So we have the different sections mentioned by page numbers. Copyright information on page 1, disclaimer on page 2, then the list of tables and figures, page 4, end user license agreement, page 5, then the contents come in page 6. After that, getting started, page 1, the actual manual begins. The earlier part is the prefatory matter. Then the software description from page 7, then troubleshooting help in page 11, and technical support in page 15. Okay, so this is the contents page. Now, the early parts of this manual. Now, the end user license agreement, what is that? This specifies the term, the evaluation and registration of the software. Now, obviously, your software has to be an authentic version, and then you can go in for the registration process. So if it is an antivirus software, you can, of course, connect to the internet server and get your product registered. Okay. There are also third-party website links, and there is mandatory activation of the software, and also it provides provisions for support and email or electronic communication. Okay. So these are all the provisions of the end user license agreement. Once you have done this or completed this, you are entitled to all these benefits and the evaluation of the software, the registration, the mandatory activation, support, and other kinds of services. Okay? So this is the early part of the manual where you have the end user license agreement. Then, of course, we begin with the first part of the manual where we have the prerequisites and the system requirements for installing the software which are given. Now, what are the Panofsky requirements? Specifically, we are given requirements like there is self-protection, a mobile scan is possible, a PC tuner, browser sandbox, and to remotely message. So these are certain requirements and specifications which are given. Okay, now what comes after this? Let us explore further. Okay, now registration, activation, and renewal. Now these are certain basic things. Now you have to do them from time to time. When your registration expires, you have to re-register your software, and of course you have to activate your software. Nowadays this activation is easy, and of course you need to renew the software, at the end of which period the software license expires. So let us say the license is expiring in September 2020. So I will have to renew it again from September to, let us say, August of the next year. Okay, so all these provisions are available when we log on to the software and we are registering the software and we try to register ourselves through that, activate multi-user packs sometimes, and generate the activation key and start operating the software. Now, for any kind of a software installation, there is a sort of product key and installation number which are generated once you try to register that software either offline or online, and try to get a registration number or installation number for it. We can also register through SMS, and there is also multi-user registration which is possible. One can also reactivate that way and renew either online or offline by generating the activation key. So there are different users possible. Okay, now the description of the software. Now we have the top section, the middle section, and the bottom section, where we have the folders which are arranged and all their activities. Now, if it's an antivirus software, then naturally there will be scan options. When you install your antivirus, you are scanning your system. So what kind of scans are available? There are many different kinds of scans available. There is custom scan, there are full system scans, there is boot time scan, there is full memory scan, and there is even mobile scan. So all these types of scan operations will be available in any antivirus software. And when you install that software, you will get that over there. Now, what about the top section, middle section, and bottom section? If you install the software, then there are different functionalities of that software. Now, in the top section, you will find in a tabular form the various functionalities of that software are described for the top section. Again, in the middle section, another set of functionalities are explained. In the bottom section, again, a third set of functionalities are explained. So all your softwares have got multiple functionalities. So how they function or what exactly they do, you may not be very sure of, even when you buy the product. Maybe you buy it hearing only its good name and reputation. But there are multiple functionalities. So in the course of running the CD containing, or rather the CD-ROM containing the manual of the software, you get a detailed idea regarding the various functionalities of that software or the different modes in which it operates. Actually speaking, we often discover what these functionalities are before we have read the manual for ourselves by sort of using different kinds of experiments or using the experiments by permutation and combination. So we often find it out like that. But actually, a good and intelligent user is not supposed to use the software or the product by in this fashion. So there is full provision for the user to learn about the software, to know all about it comprehensively and in detail, all the working and the functionality of the software by going through the clear-cut description, often given in the form of a well-organized table of all the different functionalities which it is possible to get from the software. So, in the software description part, in great detail, the functionalities of the software are given. Also, the scan options are given. Okay. Then, we also have other things like the prerequisites for installing the software, the system requirements. For example, with Panofsky, you might have self-protection, mobile scan, PC tuner, sandbox, browser, and how to remotely manage, together with installation instructions given in details and how to uninstall. So step by step, how to install the software is described often with the help of a diagrammatic representation, and also the steps of how to uninstall. So that just by simply reading these instructions, one is able to understand how to start off and how to install this kind of a software. Okay, right. So after we operate that and we take a look at the description to look at the functionalities. What else do we have? Then we will have, of course, troubleshooting help. So often there is web support which is available. Let's say that there is some kind of a problem with your software installation or it is not installed properly. So for a lay person, what that person can do is kind of uninstall that software and again reinstall it and then see if it is operating well. However, there may not be problems only in the installation part. There may be other kinds of problems, or there can be a problem with your system. So in that case, there will be a lot of trouble or maladjustment. Now, in that case, you will get the email address of the company to provide you web support. So what is this web support? That is, they will provide you assistance in the form of responding to mail requests. So you can mail the company by stating what your problems are, and you will get a response very quickly from the company, giving you instructions via email. So you may have web support in the form of online support. So online support is often available. So even sometimes you have online chat, or you can have a messaging service by which you send a message to the number, or you send a WhatsApp message and you get an immediate response from the company, or after you type in your product key or other information, you get the response. So that is there. Email support, as I just said, that is provided. Also sometimes live chat. So you can chat with the executive or with sometimes there is a chat bot. So you can send a chat message and you can get a response on WhatsApp or in the messaging service. Also, you have over the phone, which is what people often prefer because they can get the advice given by a human being and not a robot or anything else. So that is there, the phone support. So you have the headline number. You can just ring up and you can get the instruction and help, the guidance from there. You also have remote support or remote assistance, which is offered by the company to the customers for help with their software installation or operations or any other kind of difficulties that they face. Now, also we have the contact information given at the end of the manual. This is obviously mandatory and it is something very basic. So we have all the support networks provided by the company. Their contact information is given, like the customer care executive, the number, the regional support by different regions. There may be support or service centers or helplines. So for North India, this is the number. For Eastern India, this is the number. For South India, there is another number. Also the website of the company. For example, here we have the website of Wanamaker Corporation. So http://www.wanamaker.org. So that's the company email, the website, and you can log on to the website and get the information that you want from there, or you can get the helpline information from there. Now, the head office of the company, the postal address is given. This is the Princeton Boulevard, Sunnyvale, California, in USA. And the India head office is at 23 Nariman Point, Mumbai 10. Okay. So all the support information that is required is given over here. There may also be another section. This may or may not be applicable in the case of the software user manual. However, in other kinds of manuals, it is very much acceptable. So I shall be talking about this. One essential aspect of the product user manual is to provide guidelines for the customer, right? This is what we have looked at. But the other important function of this manual is to enable the customer to safely handle the device, because any kind of device may malfunction, or if it is mishandled through ignorance, it can malfunction in a dangerous kind of way with some damage to life and property. So in order to avoid this sort of danger, what are the things that can be done by the customers? Or we can say that the points about safe and proper handling about products. This is what is required. And this is what will ensure the safety of the customer and the longevity of the device. Okay. So often we have another section in the manual which contains precautions for use. For example, if you go to your electric kettle manual, you will find that there are some precautions for the use of the manual. Okay. Now, on the right hand side, you can see that I have given diagrammatic representation of the pictorial illustrations that are there in these sections of precautions. So you have certain pictures, or you have a set of pictures which are arranged, and they show certain improper uses of the device. So what the improper uses lead to, they are explained, of course, but here you have the people using these devices in an improper manner. So the improper use is marked by a cross, or in other words, that it is not the way in which the device should be handled. It should be handled in some other way. So often you'll find that with the wording of the precautions, precautions may be given in the bulleted form or numbered form, but together with that, accompanying the written precautions, there are also illustrations, okay, of improper handling of the device, often given in the form of a set of pictures, okay, or diagrams. Now, why we have it like that is to make it evident to the reader as to how the malfunctioning can lead to danger, okay, or what are the things to avoid. You see, readers may be of different kinds, and in case they are not able to understand or make sense of what exactly is contained in the manual, because they cannot understand the technical uses of language, so they can also find out about the proper ways of handling these devices by looking at these illustrations. So the illustrations are specifically designed so that these product user manuals can be used conveniently by any sort of customer. Finally, a brief look at the style of the manual. It's a handy guide, short, lucid, and easily understandable. One should use short and simple sentences and avoid unnecessary jargon in the writing of this manual, because it is meant for the lay reader, not just for the technical reader. Also, representing the work neatly and tidily is very important. So clear and bold headlines and section headings will conveniently divide the discussion up into manageable parts. Also, bulleted points will make the points clearer and they will highlight the points which are given. And diagrams should be neatly labeled with suitable illustrations and captions, and they should be a clear and informative presentation throughout the manual. So these are certain points regarding the product user manual with particular reference to the software user manual. I hope I have been able to illustrate to you the way in which such a manual can be prepared and written. So the next step would be to you to write a manual of your own. So I would like you to prepare a sample manual. So with that, I end this lecture. We shall be meeting again in the course of our other lectures in this paper. Till then, bye.